And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
Hi everyone, before I get to the NDE, I want to let you know that this video is taken from my live stream that happened last Saturday night. If you didn't know, I have live streams every Saturday night from 7 to 9 p.m. U.S. Central Time, and anyone is allowed to join me and share their experience or just hang out and watch. So I hope I see you this Saturday.
Hi.
Hello. There
Hey, fun.
you are.
Oh, it worked. I never did this before. Oh, that's a blast. Thank you.
All right. Where are you from? And what is your name? Or should I call you Typo?
Everyone calls me Typo. And so there you go. And I'm from Massachusetts, and I'm a 40-year near-death experiencer and a long time member of the Boston Near-Death Experiencers group, which is fabulous. And if anyone here is from my group, hi, I miss you guys. I can't wait for a live group again. And my specialty of study, when I was a little kid, at about 7, I fell off of a swing and found myself in a heavenly place. And I could feel that God was around, and I was given a tour, and I saw the water of life. And then I said I didn't want to go back, and they said, you have to. And I was like, no way. And they said, yes, you have to. So I said no again. And then he said, it was my spirit guide, and he said, if I show you why you want to go back, will you go back? And I said, sure, I was thinking, there's no way you're going to show me why I want to go back. So, okay, we're good. And then he showed me my life all the way to my death. Wow. And interesting, at the moment of my death, I was in an airplane, but I was only 7 years old. So I don't know when that was, like early 70s. I had never even seen the inside of a plane. And I was really, really poor growing up. So shoes were a big deal. And I'm in Massachusetts where it's cold. So shoes really matter. And boots are like really important. Well, so I see me as I'd say a 50-ish person, right? 50-ish person walking with a little girl. And I'm holding her hand in what looks like now I identify as a walkway to a plane. That's what it ended up looking like. And so I see her walking, and I think, and I can see the back of me, and I'm wearing a skirt, and I have high heel shoes on. And from my little 7-year little kid head, I was like, oh, life gets really better. Life is okay. And so that was a shot that I saw. As you have heard a bazillion times, you can be in the body. In a life review, you can be in your body walking with a little girl. And because you have 360 degree view, you can also see it from behind, right? So in that moment of a picture in my head, that's what I was doing. I was walking with the little girl, and at the same time, I could see us from behind. And the next thing I remember, I was in a seat. Now, as an adult, I recognize that as an airplane seat with what seemed to be a white wall, or the wall, like I was in the front row and there was a white wall. So I was in the seat, and I was also kind of seeing it face on, looking at myself. And I had the high heel shoes on. That was a good thing. And I was wearing a skirt, and I was like 50-ish. And I remember thinking, oh, my body works. Like as an adult, my body will work. That's a cool thing. Right. And then, so I'm sitting there, and then either my body went thrust really fast forward, or the plane was moving fast and we hit something. Either way, I can't tell which one of those it is.
Okay.
But at any rate, my body, so now I'm in my body, right? Because you see it from both views. So I'm in my body, and I get thrust really, really fast into this white thing that I perceive as a wall, right? And I crumple up. But as I crumple up, and I can tell I'm crumpling up, but I can't feel anything. As I crumple up, my consciousness continues to move. So then in a second, as fast as you can blink, I'm watching my body crumple up, and I'm ahead of my body looking at it going, oh, wow. So then I'm with my guide, and I'm watching my body crumple. I'm like, oh, that's how I die? And he says, yeah. And I say, and I keep going. He's like, well, yeah, of course. And I'm like, I didn't even feel that. I didn't even care about it. Mm-hmm. And he says, yeah, well, of course. And I'm like, wow. Okay, so then if I do that, I get to be with you again here. Because I could tell this home. This was where we are, and all my friends are here. Oh, and I got to see my neighborhood. I got to see my whole city through when we flew to a place to see memories, to go through this, through the clouds. I could see houses, beautiful, beautiful, white, sparkly, gorgeous places and buildings. And I could feel God all around. It was magical. It was magical. And it was a knowing that this was home. And as I saw the houses, I thought, oh, there's my clan. Now, I don't know if you use the word clan, but I don't use the word clan. And nobody I know in Boston uses the word clan. Mm-hmm. But
Oh, she's coming back. Okay, you're back. Now, before you carry on, I need to ask you something because I'm confused. Is this plane crash showing you your past life, or is this showing you that what's going to happen to you in this life? Like you're going to be in a plane crash sometime later.
Yeah, he was showing me, if I show you why you want to go back, will you go back? And then he brought me to this place that had all kinds of like big drawers, and he had me open a drawer and look in it, and that's where I saw my life review, my life preview. Mm-hmm. And so he was showing me what I was going to do in my life and how I would die and come back here.
So what happens if you never take a flight again?
Well, so I'll tell you a funny thing. Oh, so then I realized, like, oh, cool. You don't even notice death, because when your body goes away, consciousness just keeps moving, right? Now that can happen from laying down and dying, like having the flu or something, getting up, or it could be a plane crash. But I'll tell you, I didn't even care about it. I was like, oh, okay, good. And then I'm back here, and he says, yeah. I'm like, all right, good. So then, now I'm walking a little 3-year-old girl, right? A girl that's shorter than me. So eventually, through this thing, he brings me to the water of life because I was really stressed. I was really tired from a hard life. And so he brought me to the water of life, and he told me to put my hand in it, and it went all up in my body and totally refreshed me. And I knew that was a favor he was doing. And then he said, I said, okay, I'm ready to go back. And then I said, are you going to be here when I come back? Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, I'll meet you. I'll be here. And I said, okay, great. And then I felt a tap on my back, and I turned around to see what it was. And my head started throbbing. It hurt so much. And I went to move my arm to feel my head where it hurt. And I felt the heaviness of a physical body. And I'm like, oh, he sent me back. I'm back in this body. I'm like, what a ripoff. I had so many more questions. So that was the end. And now I have a life. And I've always wondered, if I never fly, what is it? Now, ultimately, I believe you have a time. So if you happen to be in a flight, you're gone. And if you happen to be scuba diving, you're gone, because your time is your time, right?
Right.
That's my kind of overall theory. Mm-hmm. But I did come to an interesting thing. I had a child. He was grown. I was done having kids. I was all done, and I only had a boy. And at a certain point, I said, okay, well, now I'm too old to have kids, so let's start designing our retirement. And my husband said, oh, wait, hold on. I've been so busy with career, I need a child. And I'm like, yeah, well, how bad do you need a child? And he said, for my life. And I thought, oh, all right, well, if you're someone's partner and they need a child for their life, wow, that's a commitment, right? That's an important reason. So I gave birth to a beautiful blonde girl. And then I realized, and my head didn't even put it together for like 3 years, until one day she walked into the kitchen and I thought, oh my God, I have you now and I'm older. Wow. So she, all along the period of time that was her age, that I could imagine my age would match hers. My family has been on these flying places where they just want to go flying all the time. They want to go traveling all the time. And every single time I say, no, I'm not willing to go yet. So at a certain point, I did a meditation because I feel like God is always with me. I feel like I never really left. I'm just experiencing us doing this, right? Much like you'd experience a life review, right? It feels the same. So I don't feel like I've moved. I just feel like I have both. I can talk to JeffMara and have a great conversation. And I can talk to God because he's right here. He never left, right? So he kind of is with me all the time. I kind of constantly laugh with him and say, oh my God, I can't find my shoes. You must think that is so funny. Well, I'm alive and it's not funny. I can't find my shoes. So at any rate, I never flew while she was in that window. But interestingly enough, now during my life review, at some point I could see the learning curves, and my phone is small, so I'm not sure you can see my hand. But in my review, I could see windows of learning, like a graph. And they were like hills that went up and down and up and down. And I'm a slow learner. In this life, I'm dyslexic, which is why they call me Typo. And I'm a slow learner. Okay. I really have to learn by exercising the learning. So I saw a graph, and my background is economics. So I work with graphs. So in this life review, I had a graph, and I would learn, and then I'd do it wrong, and then I'd go down, and then whoop, I'd do it again, and I have to repeat it, and then I'd get it right, and then I'd go on to the next one. So there were about 5 of these big learning things that I had set up for myself. I knew I had to do them. That was what I wanted to finish. So I'm on my last one, and I'm up at the top of it. So I haven't mastered it. I'm struggling along, getting through that. And then I get to, then I go down and I'll get to leave. So that's how I see the windows. Now, when I was in that near death moment where he brought me to this place where I could preview my life or see my life, when I first looked in the drawer, I had seen a little boy. And I was looking at the little boy's life, and I saw him born, and he was doing things, but the things he was learning didn't seem all that significant. They weren't. There was like a million of them, and they were all small. And he'd learn it, and then he'd do the next one, then he'd do the next one. So it kind of got monotonous. It didn't keep my attention. So as I'm watching this little boy's life, and he's getting older, I'm thinking, yeah, it's kind of a little monotonous. And that's when I saw the little girl's life, and I saw all that ended up being me. And I was like, oh, that's why, because I'm learning these 5 things. And when I finish the last one, I can leave. So at a certain point, I stopped and I meditated in terms of dying in a plane crash. At a certain point, my daughter's a little shorter than me. which made it hard to gather in my head whether is it now or is it in 3 years, or did I already skip it because I wouldn't fly?
Mhm.
So at a certain point, I spent a few days meditating and really deciding and saying, I don't want to go yet. I know I'm supposed to because I'm finishing up this last hill. I want to change that. So I'm going to use free will and make a request to you, God. I'm changing that. And I've always known about when I'm going to leave. And most people don't. So I count myself lucky. But I want to change that. And after I learn this thing, I want to get her through college years. I want to get her to adulthood. And so if I have the right to free will, that's my request. Now, I know I'll go home, but it'd be really nice if you could let me get that far. And I feel like that was, it felt like there was no conflict. It felt airy. It felt, okay. Now, of course, I won't know till we get there. Mm-hmm. And the last interesting thing, so that's the story. And the last interesting thing that I wanted to ask you, because what you do is so amazingly cool,
right,
is just awesome, is one of the things I've always studied is I came back knowing we were psychic, knowing we could do telepathy, knowing we could do healing, knowing we could see auras, and we could do all of the 6 senses that humans could do. But when in the 70s, you couldn't say that without being crazy, right? And in the 80s, you really couldn't say it. And then maybe around the mid 80s, you could start to say you had, what's that called? Deja vu, right? You could be deja vu and not be crazy.
Right.
And then in the early 90s, you could talk about things like this at the beginning. So I've watched the progression more like an adolescence of spirit. Now we know we're going through the Great Awakening where we're going to learn this, right? Mm-hmm. And we're going to learn healing, so all of these people have come back. We're up to 30 million now, right? There, about a few years back, I asked the president of IANS in an interview how many people had come back from near-death experiences, and her estimate was 20 million. Mm-hmm. And that was, I'm bad at time, but I would guess that was about 4 or 5 years ago. If any of you are Boston IANS members and you're listening in on this, hi, because you know this whole story. And if I'm wrong with that, with when I asked her, because you might have been there when I asked her, and you remember when it was, put it in the chat so we know. But my guess is about 4-ish years ago. So I would guess we're up to 30 million near-death experiencers. Easy. That's an easy estimate. Mm-hmm. So with that, what I study is the stories that people come back with to help us make a smooth transition and create the tools that we know we've been sent back to here, right? We know that we've always known crystals heal and vibration heals the body. And we know that we're going to have a healing room. People talk about beds, but we're really going to just do it in a room that looks like a shower. And we're going to and we know that now that crystals, UV light is what crystals emit, right? Mm-hmm. So UV light and harmonics is what will heal the human body, and we have to learn those. What else do we know? We know that we do a ton of things. So I would love if your people, and when you ask them, if you can ask them what they learned that we're going to learn in the future, because it's so valuable, right? We're given that so that we can make good choices. Right. And you're doing it. So that's so cool. Do you hear a lot? What's your best healing thing?
It's not that common that people know what's going to happen in the future. Sometimes they do. Usually they'll kind of key me in by saying, while I was in my experience, I learned of things that were going to happen in the future. And then I'll usually ask, okay, well, what did you see? But it's not as common as you think it would be. Anyways, Typo, I'm so sorry. I've got to run to the next person.
It's a blast. Thank you.
Thank you so much for stopping by. And hey, I'm always looking for more NDE guests. So if you have any Boston friends from IANS, can you please send them my way? because I try to do this every day. You're saying there's 20 million of them out there, or 30 million. I need them to start contacting me so I can keep bringing these every day.
You know what? It's my pleasure to do that. I will absolutely. And I've thought about it a few times and figured they listen in. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, very cool. You're so new and you're growing so fast, and you're a fabulous interviewer. So keep up the good work, and we're grateful. And I'll send my Boston people your way.
Thank you so
much. They're in every city. Okay. They're in every city. So you can find people. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.